Hey, what's good, awesome people? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you are well and enjoying your time with friends and families. For those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Joshua Partugi and I make a living from team facilitation, life coaching, and also Scrum training. Many people know me as the Scrum Master in Black. However, in today's video, I will not be talking about Scrum, but instead I'll be comparing two products that I've been using quite intensively in the past 9 months during the pandemic. In today's video, I'll be comparing Miro and Mural. If you're interested in these two products, stay tuned folks, don't go anywhere. As we all know, in the past 9 months, our world has been flipped upside down and many of us have to collaborate with our teams virtually. I've been using both Miro and Mural quite intensively for virtual activities, either that is training, coaching individuals, or even facilitating collaborative sessions. During this period, many people have asked me whether Miro or Mural is better suited for them. In today's video, I'm going to break down the functionalities in these two products so you can make your own judgment. I didn't get paid by either Miro and Mural to make this review video. Even though I have my own personal preference, I will try to be as objective as possible when comparing the functionalities in both of these products. Stay tuned until the end of this video to know which one I prefer. Before I start reviewing, as a disclaimer for all of you who are watching this video, digital products, especially web-based products, are updated quickly these days because of the advancement in software delivery. I made this review in January 2021. That means my review can be quite outdated when you're watching it today. It's possible by the time you're watching this video, both Miro and Mural have updated the features I mentioned here or implemented the features that are lacking when this video was made. Both Miro and Mural are catching up with one another. This review is mainly created for people who are new to Miro or Mural and in search for a virtual or online collaborative whiteboard. Therefore, this review might look quite too basic for Miro or Mural power users. If you're a highly Miro or Mural user, you are dismissed. In today's video, I'll be only discussing and comparing the features and functionalities on Miro and Mural that I use the most and found important as a trainer, a facilitator, and also as a professional coach. Miro and Mural have so many features which I don't talk about here. Okay, without further ado, let's start reviewing both of these products. Before we talk about the functionalities on Miro and Mural, let's talk about the philosophy and the concepts of both of these products. Miro is an unlimited size online whiteboard where you can have multiple frames as the workspace, while Mural is a limited size online whiteboard with a maximum size of 60K by 60K pixels. Both Miro and Mural work with your touchpads or your mouse. With limitations to the size of a board on Mural, you may need to have several murals if you are organizing a training that covers many topics, or your training or your workshop have many participants that will be grouped into several teams. For my training, I prefer the whole class to use a single board to avoid context switching between multiple boards, and all teams in the training have their own space in the same board for collaborating. I have facilitated a workshop with 75 people and everybody joins the same Miro board. I divided the Miro board into multiple columns, as you can see here, and each team can access different columns on the Miro board. Now, let's talk about the functionalities that are available on both products and see how the people at Miro and Mural solve the problems for online collaboration through their products differently. Now, what good is an online board if you cannot export the online board into a soft copy? Every participant who attended my training or facilitated sessions always wanted a soft copy of the board. Miro and Mural philosophy affect how files, especially the PDF file, is exported. Both Miro and Mural can export the board into PDF and image files. On Miro, everything that you want to export into PDF must be inside a frame, and each frame will be exported into a page on the PDF file. Mural exported PDF file structure is different. When you export a board from the Share menu, Mural will export the whole board into a single-page PDF file. And even though contents that are not inside an area will still be exported to the PDF file. On Mural, you can also export a certain area on the board by right-clicking the area and then select the Export Area pop-up menu as such. Both Miro and Mural can also export the board into image files too. On Miro, the image type for the exported board is JPEG, while on Mural, the image type for the exported board is PNG. On Miro, when you export the board into an image, rather than getting multiple files for each frame, before exporting the board, Miro will ask you to select a portion of the board to be exported first. On Mural, when you export the board into an image from the Share menu, you will get the whole board. You can also export a specific area on Mural into a PNG file from the pop-up menu as such. One thing I have to tell you is exporting large boards with lots of images on Mural can be problematic. Sometimes I will get missing images on both the exported PDF or PNG file. So far, I have not had any bad experiences when exporting Miro boards with many images on it. If you will be facilitating a session where the board has many images and the exported file is important for you, I will not recommend you to use Mural, at least until they improve the export functionality. If someone from Mural is currently watching this video, hopefully you folks will improve the export mechanism sometime in the future. Hopefully you folks at Mural will put this in your product backlog. Now let's talk about the frame functionality on Miro and the area functionality on Mural. If I may simplify it, a frame on Miro or an area on Mural is an organized space for collaborating on certain topics. To create a frame on Miro, you click the frame menu from the left sidebar, and every time you create a frame, it will automatically be listed on the list of frames. To create an area on Mural, you need to right-click your mouse on an empty space and then select the Add Area pop-up menu as such. Every newly created area will not automatically be listed on the Mural outline. To add an area into the outline, you need to press the area you want to add and then right-click it and select the Add to Outline pop-up menu as such. When I prepare training materials, sometimes many of the contents emerge as I'm designing the training structure. I like how on Mural I can create all of the areas first and then add the areas into the outline according to the order or the flow of the training later on. On Miro, I have to rearrange the order of the frames from the list of frames according to the training flow after I have finished designing the whole training structure. Sometimes I find this process is quite tedious. Both on Miro and Mural, everyone including non-board owners can create a frame or an area. But on Mural, only the facilitator who can add the area into the outline. Personally, I like the Mural approach, giving privilege to add areas into the outline only to the facilitators. On Mural, you can also add a title for an area, while on Miro, even though you have named the frame name does not automatically be the title of the frame. So when you export a Miro board, the frame will not have a title unless you add it by using the text functionality by yourself. On Miro, you can see the thumbnail of each frame on the frame list, while on Mural, a functionality for seeing the thumbnail view for each area on the outline is not yet available. On both Miro and Mural, if you click a frame from the frame list or the area from the outlines, you will be redirected to that frame or that area. I found this functionality is useful when you have a lot of content on the board and when you want everyone to be pointed to the same space. When you're facilitating a session involving a number of people using an online whiteboard, you want to make sure that the participants cannot move certain elements on the board. Now let's talk about the locking mechanism on both Miro and Mural. To lock an element on Miro, you just click the element that you want to lock and then click this padlock icon from the pop-up menu. And if you want to ensure nobody can unlock it beside you, click the shield icon from the pop-up menu. So on Miro, there are two steps you need to do to ensure no one else but you who can unlock the element. On Mural, to lock an element, you right-click the element you want to lock and then choose this lock option from the pop-up menu and then select the only facilitator can unlock submenu if you want to ensure you're the only person who can unlock it. Miro and Mural have different approaches for unlocking an element. To unlock an element on Miro, you need to click the element and then long press the pop-up menu as such. To unlock an element on Mural, you right-click the element and then click the Unlock pop-up menu as such. You can also unlock all elements on Miro and Mural by clicking the Unlock All option from the pop-up menu. Besides locking elements on the online whiteboard, when facilitating a session with a number of people, you also want to make sure that you can hide the frames or the areas. I found this functionality is essential to keep the participants focused and to prevent participants jumping ahead. Both Miro and Mural have the functionality to hide frames or areas. To hide a frame on Miro, you click the frame you want to hide and then click this eye icon from the pop-up menu, or you can also go to the list of frames and then click the eye icon for the frame that you want to hide. On Mural, besides an area, you can also hide certain elements as long as those elements are listed on the outlines. To hide certain areas or elements on Mural, you need to go to the outlines and then click the eye icon for the area or the element you want to hide. Now let's talk about one of the main features of an online whiteboard, that is the virtual sticky note. On both Miro and Mural, you can drop a square or rectangular sticky note. You can place a sticky note on Miro or Mural either from the sidebar menu or double-clicking the touchpad or your mouse. On Mural, you can also add a circle sticky note and add a border on the sticky note. On Miro, you can have a new line on the sticky note, while on Mural, as of when this video is made, adding a new line on the sticky note is not doable yet. Sometimes I use a new line on the sticky note when I write user stories, hypotheses, or product backlog items acceptance criteria. A functionality to change the font size on the sticky note is also an important aspect of an online whiteboard. When you want to change the font size on Mural, you have to increase or decrease the font size on the sticky note incrementally using the pop-up menu as such. On Miro, you can change the font size into a specific size or set it to auto size. On Mural, you can change the font type on the sticky note into 8 different font types, while on Miro, there are only 2 font types for the sticky note. I personally like to use different font types on the sticky note for categorization and to make my online whiteboard more visually compelling. Besides sticky notes, you can also add multi-line text both on Miro and on Mural. You can format the multi-line text on Miro and Mural, but you can only add bullet points for the multi-line text on Miro. And on Miro, you can change the font on the multi-line text into 27 different font types, while on Mural, you can change it into 8 different font types. I'm not sure why Miro only gives 2 font types for the sticky note, but 27 different font types for the multi-line text. This concept really baffles me. You can also add shapes and put text inside the shape both on Miro and Mural. Mural gives us information about the width and the length of the shape, which I found quite useful when I'm designing the structure of my training materials. Another important functionality of an online whiteboard that is essential for me as a trainer and as a facilitator is giving guests or someone who is not from my organization an access to the board. Both Miro and Mural allow guests to access the board. On Miro, if the guests want to display their real name on the cursor, they need to sign up and log in to Miro. On Mural, before guests enter the board, they can enter their real name without having to register and log in into Mural. You can also add a password to protect the board, both on Miro and Mural, from uninvited guests. In my virtual training session, I also like to add videos, either from my own YouTube channel or someone else's. Both Miro and Mural enable us to embed YouTube videos on the board so participants can watch the video from right inside the board. A nice feature of an online whiteboard is adding icons to make the board more visually compelling and also to communicate our ideas better to the other participants. Both Miro and Mural provide an extensive library of icons that are searchable from inside the application. On Miro, not only we can add icons to the board, we can also add emojis. On Mural, we can change the colors of the icons, while on Miro, icons are basically just bitmap images. So that is why we cannot change the color of the icons. When giving exercises to the participants both in the training or collaborative sessions, I need to put a timer for the exercises. In many cases, the participants do the exercises in the breakout rooms, so I found it's important that everyone in all of the breakout rooms see the same timer. Both Miro and Mural have a timer functionality. Yes, I do know that online conference tools like Zoom also show the timer when participants are in the breakout room, but I never use the timer from Zoom because it takes several seconds for participants to get into the breakout room, so in my training, I start the timer on Miro or Mural when I see everyone has entered the breakout room. Besides timer functionality, voting functionality is also essential for my training and facilitated sessions. Both on Miro and Mural, only board owners or facilitators who can start the voting session. On Miro, your voting session can be time-boxed, and you can also select an area on the board and choose certain types of elements to be voted. On Mural, currently the voting session cannot be time-boxed and must be ended manually either by the facilitator or any member of the Mural. On Mural, you cannot select certain areas on the board or certain elements to be voted. So I have talked about the functionalities that both Miro and Mural have. Let's talk about some functionalities that are only available on Miro or Mural, which I really like using. On Miro, you can set the starting view when participants first access your board. This functionality is very useful if you have a large board or many contents on your board so that participants will not get lost when they are first exposed to your board. This functionality is not yet available on Mural. On Miro, you can view the grid, which is very useful for someone who is OCD like me and would like to see the content on their board look neat, aligned to one another, and spaced out evenly. Viewing the grid is not yet available on Mural. Miro also has a functionality that I often use in my professional Scrum product owner and professional Scrum with UX training, and also when I'm facilitating a design thinking session in a team. That functionality is the wireframe. To create wireframes on Mural, you either use the icons or upload a wireframe image. I have tried this and I found it quite painful. Even though I like how Miro has wireframe functionality, I do not like how the wireframe elements are automatically added into the frame list. I think wireframe should not be listed on the frame list, but it should be an element that can be embedded inside a frame. Recently, Miro have added a functionality to revert to last edit. I haven't yet used this functionality on a real-life scenario, as it was added a few days before I made this video. Even though I have not used it, I have experienced an epic moment where a participant accidentally selected all of the elements on the Miro board and then accidentally pressed the delete button. Revert to last edit or rollback functionality is not yet available on Mural. Integration to third parties is quite extensive in Miro. You can integrate your Miro board to external applications ranging from Google Docs, Slack, Microsoft Teams, or even product backlog management tools like Atlassian Jira, Azure DevOps, Asana, ClickUp, Target Process, Trello, etc. Support for third-party applications is something that Mural needs to improve. I have been talking a lot about the functionalities that are only available on Miro, but however, there is one functionality on Mural that is quite useful and not yet available on Miro. On Mural, the facilitator can have a private mode which can be useful for preparing something on the fly during the facilitated session without the other participants seeing what's currently being prepared by the facilitator. Now, let's talk about other functionalities that you may find useful even though I personally do not use it or rarely use it. Both Miro and Mural enable you to create a template from the board you have made so that you do not need to create the same board again from scratch when you have the same events, for example, recurring training. I rarely use this functionality. I usually create a master board rather than making it as a template. For every training I have facilitated, I just duplicate the master board. The reason why I do this is because I often update my board after every training, as I will always learn something new from the participants. Saving your board into a template is useful when you want to share your board to the people from outside of your organization or to the public. Both Miro and Mural have a functionality where you can bring everyone to your current position on the board. I personally rarely use this functionality, as in my training I use multiple devices and each device is logged into the same Miro or Mural account. I also have found this functionality can be quite annoying for some participants. I like to give control to participants and prefer to ask them to click the frame or the area I'm currently presenting rather than summoning them. Both Miro and Mural have a decent draw functionality that enables you to draw freely on the board. The draw functionality is quite useful for drawing simple things. I suggest that you use Miro or Mural tablet application if you ever want to draw on the board. The draw functionality on Miro and Mural would not be as good as a proper drawing application like Procreate or Concept application, but it gets the job done. I never used the draw functionality on Miro or Mural during my virtual training, but I found it quite handy during my virtual live coaching session, as I can ask my client to join the Miro or Mural board so they can see my live drawing during the virtual coaching session. Alright, I have shared with you some of the functionalities I like from Miro and Mural. Now let's talk about the prices or the subscription fee. At the end of the day, the majority of you want to know the subscription fee for Miro and Mural so you can weigh which one gives you more value. Miro has a freemium version, which means you can use Miro for free. The Miro freemium version has many limitations, but I think it's sufficient to get you started and get a taste of Miro. The freemium version only gives you a maximum of 3 boards. Many of the cool features on Miro, like voting and timer, are not available on the freemium version. As of when this video is made, Mural does not give any freemium version, but Mural gives you a 30 days trial for you to test out the functionalities on Mural. As a trainer, facilitator, and life coach, I purchased the Miro Consultant Plan and Mural Starter Plan. Check out Miro pricing page and also Mural pricing page to compare their prices and the functionalities you will get for each price bracket so that you can make your own judgment which product gives you more value. Wow, that was quite a long comparison. So which one I would suggest you use? I personally think that both Miro and Mural are good online whiteboard applications and most likely will be suitable for the majority of your use cases. Miro and Mural have all of the fundamental functionalities you will ever need to facilitate a virtual collaborative session or a virtual training. Many of the functionalities that I prefer either from Miro or Mural comes down to my personal taste and can be very subjective. You need to figure out which one suits your personal preference the most. And your personal preference may be different to my personal preference. As of when this video was made, Miro has more functionalities than Mural and the integration to third parties is more extensive than Mural. The wireframe functionality is ideal for the majority of the training I facilitate. The export functionality on Miro never failed me so far. My training embeds many images on the board, so the export functionality is a high-value functionality for my training. I also like how in Miro we can select a certain area and only certain elements that can be voted. I also like the view grid functionality on Miro as it helps me design a well-laid-out training material on the board. I also like the text formatting and the ability to add bullet points on the text elements on Miro. Having the ability to set a starting view on the board is also quite handy because in my virtual training, my Miro board can be quite big, and this functionality prevents participants from getting lost when they are first exposed to the board. I like how locking an element on Miro is quite simple, even though I really hate that long press mechanism to unlock an element. If someone from Miro is currently watching this video, I hope you folks will find an improvement for the lock functionality. Because of all of these reasons, I will personally choose Miro over Mural for my virtual training. Even though I will choose Miro for the majority of my use cases, there are many functionalities on Mural that I prefer over the functionalities on Miro. From my personal opinion, Mural is quite simple. I often use Mural when I facilitate a short session with a new client who has never used an online whiteboard before, mainly for virtual consulting or virtual coaching sessions. I also prefer to use Mural for online conferences or community meetups because from my personal observation, the participants' learning curve for Mural is quite low. I personally think that Mural is ideal for flashing up an ad hoc facilitated sessions. The private mode is quite handy for facilitated sessions. I also like how guests do not need to register for a Mural account to display their real name on the cursor. I like how on Mural we can see the size of the elements we create. I also like how we can change the color of the icons on Mural. This is quite useful when I want to colorize an icon during a coaching session. From my personal observation, in the past 9 months, Miro has been delivering new features faster than Mural. I think Miro is catching up with Mural. Some of the functionalities that I did not see on Miro and only available on Mural 9 months ago are already available on Miro today. When I looked at the majority of the new functionalities delivered in the past 9 months by Mural, I think they're just gimmicks. So, that is all from me today, folks. These are my personal opinions about Miro and Mural. Thanks for watching today's video. I had great fun making this review video as I have never done something like this before. I do hope that you found this review video useful to help you make better decisions. So after watching today's video, which one do you prefer more? Do you prefer Miro or do you prefer Mural? Leave a comment down below. And also don't forget to smash that like button. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, go and subscribe now. Alright folks, see you until my next video. Until then, stay safe and scrum on!